Good evening, everyone. It's great to be here. I want to make sure that all the sound settings are okay. So if everybody could hear me speaking, I have the mic set on a certain setting for speaking, and we'll change it for the music. So I could see the live chat. I just need to know for sure before I formally start if the sound is coming through okay. So if you can, just somebody type in the chat and say too soft or too loud or just right. And I'll see there in the chat if anyone is saying something. That would be very helpful. Just have an idea. The sound is just fine. Thank you. Fine here. Good. Okay. And then the music, I will take down the gain on this mic so it doesn't blast you out. So anyway, hi everybody. It's good to see you all. So the first concert that I did was devoted to music of Bach. And of course, the music he wrote was not for the piano, but for the harpsichord. And he wrote for harpsichord and organ, and it was quite different than the instruments that we have now. And if we progress a little later now to the second concert in this three-concert series, the music of Mozart and Beethoven. Now, they also did not write for a modern piano, so we have to take that into consideration. And Mozart wrote this particular sonata. It's listed in the Kirschel catalog. Most composers had opus numbers, and Mozart's catalog was the Kirschel catalog. And this particular piece was, they weren't quite sure when it was composed, but 1936, I think, when they were redoing the catalog, they realized that they dated the paper, and they think he could have written it in Linz, but before Vienna, and the paper dating took it to 1783, published in 1784. Some thought he wrote it in 1779, but the dating of the paper is quite interesting. This is an interesting piece, and the work after is Beethoven's Sonata in F minor. In Italian, passionate means Appassionata. And it's quite a piece. In 1803, Beethoven realized, or he was told, of course, that his deafness would become worse and worse. And he composed this piece. It was somewhere like 1804, 1805, 1806. I don't think it was done quickly. And you could hear the outbursts of anger and the kind of giving into his impending deafness in some of the music that becomes very low in the instrument, very rich and very solemn. He writes the second movement of this in D flat major, which is not a common key for Beethoven at all. The second movement of the Pathetique Sonata is, it has a lot of D flat in it. And it's quite interesting, but the F minor pieces, the sonata is one of the pieces that I'm very close to. It was one of the first pieces I ever heard as a child, maybe 6 or 7 years old. And it was a Vladimir Horowitz recording. And when I heard that, I thought, that's it. That's what I want to do. And I think looking back now, I realized why. And it was because I related to these sharp contrasts of sound and outbursts of sound and quiet sounds. And it was one of those pieces that triggered me into wanting to perform and be a pianist, be a musician. But first, let's backtrack about 20 years before Beethoven composed that sonata to Mozart when he was about 26 years old. This beautiful sonata in B flat major. It's in 3 movements. Now, I do repeats, and in those repeats, some different things. Things I planned, things I haven't. Sometimes I'll do things with articulation that just happen on the spot because I think that's what Mozart would have liked. Now, Mozart wrote 19 piano sonatas, and in a few of them, he writes the movement out in full with no repeat sections, meaning going back. He writes them full. And in those movements, when they're written out full, without repeats, he changes the repeating material and improvises with them a little and changes them around. And when I took on the project to record all 19 sonatas, you can hear all 19, I think it's, believe it or not, They took the 2 volumes that I did for E1 Entertainment. We recorded them about a dozen or so years ago, and all the sonatas with all the repeats and embellishments added in the repeats. And I think they took the 2 volumes of like 6 or 7 CDs and put them all into one big Mozart Sonata box. I think you can find it on Amazon for it's like 99 cents, and it's like, talk about a bargain. But it's fun because whenever I check, sometimes I'll check the bestsellers, and it gets in there. I guess it was worth the price, but it's a lot of music in there for one big set. But in those 19 sonatas, when I decided to record them, I thought, what would Mozart have done in some of the movements in the repeat sections that he did not do? Obviously, he didn't have enough time to write everything out. So you'll get an idea of maybe what he would have done in this particular sonata. This is the sonata in B flat major, Herschel number 333. I'm going to turn the gain up. Down 1 minute. This will be better. Little things we forget when we're playing from home. There's no better way. I'm sorry. That's a home concert. No page turners. Just me. Oh my goodness. Thank you. Thank you so much. Sorry for the demolition. But it is. It's just like a, I'll leave it. I feel like it's a yeah. It's like when you go to the doctor and they take the tape off. Anyway, let me raise this. Oh gosh. Okay. Hope you don't mind the little humor in between. It's not the best, but it's worth the money. Anyway, so then we moved to Beethoven. Huh. I don't know what the world of music would have been like without Beethoven. Everybody I speak to, they all feel, pop composers, classical artists, Beethoven was it. Bach was great. Mozart was great. Beethoven is the one who bridged two giant mountains from one to the other and created the bridge from what was to what would become, and even pushed it further as he became more increasingly deaf. The sound world he heard inside became our outer sound world, which is quite unusual. And he would hear harmony, a melody and rhythm in his head. He would put his head to the floor to listen and take the legs off the pianos to listen to something coming out of the piano. Can you imagine this poor person to have to do this? One of the greatest geniuses of all time. He's the one that goes deaf. But from that deafness came a genius that maybe would not have happened to that extent had he not been deaf. I often think about that is, would he have written conservatively the way he did, pretty much for this first and second periods? And what would have happened if he did not go deaf? How would his music have evolved? We will never know that. But it's a question we'll always ask, and we'll never know quite the answer, but we are very fortunate to have, from his suffering, incredible music, and some beautiful music. I mean, it wasn't all just sadness. There was a lot of beauty in his music as he became older and more increasingly deaf. I've already outlived Beethoven. I'll be 60. He wasn't 60. It's remarkable to think about that. You know, he only played perhaps some of this music he wrote once or twice or whatever. We've lived with it for so much longer than he did. So our interpretations may have evolved over time because the music has been around so much longer since his lifetime. And, you know, I think it was it George Bolet who said, you know, I think he said, I think I can interpret Beethoven's music better than he, because I've lived with it for 40 years and he didn't. Well, there's something to be said for that, because music has a way of aging within you and taking you through your life. And so you interpret it differently as you get older, whereas Beethoven didn't have that opportunity, but it was his music. This sonata is really the one that got me into music. And the moment I heard those opening notes, I thought, oh, wow. So every time I play this, it's an adventure. So I'm going to now play for you the Sonata number 23 of Beethoven in F minor, which was subtitled after the Appassionata. Thank you so much. Thank you. Let me move in now. Okay. Wow. Thank you so much. I'm glad you're all here. It's good to see you all. I see some names in the chat there, and I'm glad you were all able to come. That's it's an interesting piece because every time I play it, it's a bit different because the instruments are very different. This piano actually happens to have the capacity to use the pedal just a little bit to create what might have been this amazing advancement in pedaling in the instruments of Beethoven's time. And he would hold long pedals for his music. I think the later pieces of his require more pedal, more use. He wanted it to just bathe in sound. And so I try to kind of recreate the piece every time I play it a bit differently. I don't know how much of that comes through a computer or a microphone or whatever you're listening to. But in the room here, it's a different kind of an effect. And it's a lot of fun to play. What we did the first time is had some questions through the chat, which was really nice. So if anybody would like to ask, oh, thank you for those comments. That's so sweet. If you have any questions that I could answer about anything, music, pieces, repertoire. I'm looking to see if anyone has questions, because we did do that last time. It was a lot of fun. So feel free to ask in that chat session any questions, and that would be Okay, I'm just looking and waiting. I don't know if anyone asked any earlier, but I can't see anything from earlier in case you did ask. I know the first concert we did in January with Bach, we talked about different things. Let's see. Um, Somebody got in by accident. That's okay. It's a good accident. You won't get hurt. Just anybody have any questions? So, ask and then I could answer something. Otherwise, um, thank you, everybody. Um, Going once, going twice. Anybody have questions? If not, thank you so much for being here. It was, great to play in house, and I never thought that my piano, my room here would turn into a concert hall. But let's see. Thank you so much, everybody. Comments. Are we doing another one soon? Cat Night asked. Yes. In middle March is the third of three of these of the series that we came up with. Troy Chromatics has been around for I think since 1894, and it's a great series, and I think these are the first online concerts I'm doing, and I'm honored to do it. Let's see, isn't the repeat important? Yes, repeat's important, and what I find so interesting about doing the repeats is finding something interesting to say, something different to say, whether it's in pedaling or like in this particular sonata, the last movement, some spaces, a little more rests in between and all the constant music to hear nothing and take advantage of rests, for instance. So repeats are important. They do have repeats in the music, and there's a reason for it. I can't imagine how you would do a repeat just the same way you did it the first time. I couldn't do that. Benjamin Wong. Hi, Benjamin, how are you? You have a question? How do I find time to practice with someone? I don't know. I don't know. Every day is a different day. For those of you who follow me on social media, check out tomorrow. Will be some interesting news about a big project that I had in my mind for about 4 years, and it's coming together. Tomorrow will be announced. Brief description of some go to phrasing and other musical trappings. Mozart and other composers regularly. Well, I think in the phrasing, I think I might answer your question this way. A lot of the phrasing that's in Mozart sonatas and the articulations, I think I like doing the repeats because you could do different things. I don't know if he meant it to be just that way, but like if he could have a legato or a slur, maybe when it comes back, he would want it shorter or detached. Or if something was louder, maybe a little softer on the repeat, or just maybe embellishing it with something, a little turn or a trill or a scale or a mordant or something, but just something that you feel at the moment enhances the music at that moment. I'm careful with the embellishments and the phrasings not to do anything to the music or to superimpose anything that's already there or to try to make it better or different. It's really just to refresh it a little bit, just to use the same material. I don't change harmonies. I don't change melodic material in it. Sometimes little rhythmic things, but I think I got the inspiration from the movements that are written out. And that has helped me a lot. So anyway, everybody saying such nice things. Thank you so much. And thank you for being here. Come back in March. We're going to do all Gershwin, some pieces you haven't heard. And we'll finish with the complete Rhapsody in Blue in its original 1924 manuscript with some 88 measures you may not have heard before, interspersed in the piece. So great to be here and to be performing for Troy Chromatics. And thank you for taking time and spending it with us. Thank you. Good night.